Let's dive right into this explainer and uncover the incredible hidden world of fetal cognitive development. For the longest time, the womb was just considered this dark, silent place where a brain simply grew on autopilot, basically waiting for birth to turn the lights on. But modern science has completely shattered that assumption. We're now discovering that the fetal mind is actively working, sensing, and even learning way before birth. It's an absolutely fascinating psychological frontier, and I am so excited to walk you through exactly how we know what we know.
But right out of the gate, we hit a massive methodological puzzle. How exactly do researchers measure the cognitive activity of a fetus when they can't directly observe it? It's literally a scientific detective story. We can't hand a fetus a questionnaire, right? And we certainly can't ask them to push a button when they recognize a sound. To truly understand fetal cognition, scientists have had to develop some seriously brilliant, non-invasive methodological principles to peek inside the black box of the womb.
Before we look at those specific tools, we really need to grasp the sheer scale of what we're studying here. Just look at this number, 200 billion. In the span of just 9 short months, a single-celled zygote transforms at a completely astonishing rate, forming approximately 200 billion neurons by the end of the second trimester. It's an explosion of biological architecture that lays the foundation for everything we are.
To put that rapid development into perspective, neurogenesis, which is the creation of new neurons, happens at a staggering rate of more than 300,000 cells per minute. Let that sink in. And these cells aren't just piling up aimlessly. They are multiplying, migrating, and wiring together a highly coordinated nervous system long before the baby ever takes its first breath. This exact circuitry is what allows a fetus to eventually pull away from a cold stimulus or bring a little hand to its mouth. We are looking at a complex, functioning system being built in real time.
Section 1. Tools of the Trade. Cracking the biological case.
So, to solve the mystery of what this rapidly building brain is actually doing, scientists look for physical proxy signals. One crucial clue comes from fetal heart rate variability, or FHRV. Just like your own heart might race when someone startles you, a fetal heart rate responds to its environment. FHRV is a vital indicator of neurological function because it reflects the dynamic interplay between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. By tracking subtle changes in the heart rate when we introduce, say, a sound or a light, we get a direct, completely non-invasive window into how the fetus is processing sensory information.
Now, the visual tools we use to track this development have evolved dramatically over the years. We started out with traditional 2D grayscale ultrasound technology. And sure, this was a massive leap forward for medicine at the time, but as a tool for cognitive psychology, it definitely had its limits.
While this early 2D profile gave us our very first glimpses into the womb, honestly, often looking more like a blurry, shadowy potato than a person, it was pretty flat. We could measure physical growth and check on basic anatomy for sure, but it was incredibly hard to decode the nuances of complex cognitive and motor behaviors. Seeing the structure was one thing. Deciphering the behavior was a totally different challenge.
But as technology advanced to 3D and 4D imaging, our entire view of the developing fetus completely transformed. 4D imaging in particular is a real game changer because it adds the element of time, giving us live, continuous video of the fetus in motion. We aren't just looking at a static snapshot anymore, we're actually watching behavior unfold in real time.
With this kind of detailed 3D and 4D imagery, we can catch intricate movements, like a fetus touching its own face. And this isn't just random twitching, okay? This hints at a highly coordinated nervous system. Being able to track exactly when and how often fetuses touch their faces, or swallow, or orient their bodies gives developmental psychologists invaluable, concrete data about their neurological maturity.
So how do we actually test their learning once we can monitor them? We use a core methodological principle called the habituation paradigm, which is basically the scientific getting bored test. First, you present a stimulus, like a specific sound, repeatedly. Over time, the fetus gets used to it, and their reaction, like that heart rate we mentioned earlier, decreases. Then you present a completely novel stimulus. If their heart rate jumps back up, bingo. It means they notice the difference.
Notice how the attention drops off sharply as the repetitions increase. If they react strongly to a new stimulus after getting totally bored with the old one, we know two really profound things. First, they have the memory capacity to remember the first stimulus, and second, they have the cognitive ability to distinguish it from the new one. This simple, elegant method totally unlocked our understanding of early cognition.
Section 2. Senses in the womb. Uncovering the clues.
Because you obviously can't have learning without sensory input, let's see what a fetus can actually sense. Using these brilliant methodological tools, researchers discovered a surprisingly rich sensory world inside the womb. For a long time, people assumed the womb was like a sensory deprivation tank. But as we now know, the fetus is actually bathed in a constant stream of sensory information: touch, taste, smell, hearing, and yes, even vision.
It turns out they can sense a lot more than we ever gave them credit for. Their auditory system matures between 23 and 25 weeks, meaning they can clearly hear their mother's voice and the rhythmic sounds of her body. Amazingly, they even have visual experiences. Even though their eyelids are sealed shut for a period, researchers found that shining a bright light on the uterus actually increases the fetal heart rate starting around 28 weeks. They are literally perceiving light through sealed eyelids. And they're constantly tasting and smelling the amniotic fluid, which is flavored by the mother's diet. If mom eats a bunch of garlic or carrots, the fetus is getting a little culinary preview. Seriously.
Section 3. Transnatal Learning Revealed. The Big Reveal. This brings us to the absolute most fascinating evidence of our explainer: babies actually remembering what they experienced before birth. This is encapsulated in a concept called transnatal learning. This refers to learning that occurs during the prenatal period, which is remembered and clearly evidenced during the postnatal period. This is basically the holy grail for developmental psychologists because it allows scientists to detect direct psychobiological continuities between the fetus in the womb and the newborn infant in the crib. It proves development is a continuous line, not just a sudden start at birth. To prove this, researchers used another brilliant method called the high-amplitude sucking paradigm. In a really famous study, pregnant mothers repeatedly read a specific story aloud during their final weeks of pregnancy. After birth, researchers gave the newborns a special pacifier hooked up to a computer. If the baby sucked in one specific pattern, they heard the familiar story. If they sucked in a different pattern, they heard a totally new story. The results? The newborns actively modified their sucking rates just to trigger the sound of the story they remembered. They literally learned how to hack their pacifier to get their favorite audiobook. It is clear, retained memory.
Section 4. The enduring impact. Risks to development.
Now, understanding this rapid cognitive growth and incredible capacity for early learning also highlights the vulnerabilities of the fetal mind. Because the brain is wiring itself at such an explosive rate, the environment it develops in is absolutely critical. The flip side of transnatal learning is that negative experiences can also be encoded. Things like teratogens, external factors like toxins can be harmful, but research also points to maternal stress and anxiety. Elevated levels of maternal cortisol from stress can cross the placenta and physically alter developing brain structures, particularly the hippocampus. And why does that matter? Well, the hippocampus is the very center of learning and memory. Altering it can have subtle, lasting impacts on the child's cognitive trajectory well into the future.
Section 5. Summary and Implications. The case closed.
Let's pull all our clues together and summarize what this incredible science tells us about early human cognition. Ultimately, the fetal brain isn't just passively growing on autopilot. Through brilliant methodological work like advanced ultrasound imaging, FHRV, and habituation paradigms, we know the truth. The fetus is actively experiencing, sensing, and learning from a really rich intrauterine environment. Prenatal experiences definitively and directly affect postnatal behavior.
Which leaves us with a profound final thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. In psychology, there's this constant debate between nature versus nurture, what is innate versus what is learned. But if we are already deeply learning, sensing, and forming memories from our environment months before we are even born, is any of our early human behavior truly 100% innate? It's an incredible question that completely blurs the line between biology and experience, and it just goes to show how early our journey of learning really begins.